Hi, and welcome to Askimo TV. We're talking today to Sue Atkins. Sue is an internationally recognized parenting expert, broadcaster, speaker, and author of the Amazon best-selling books, Parenting Made Easy, How to Raise Happy Children, and Raising Happy Children for Dummies. Sue offers practical guidance for bringing up happy, confident, and well-behaved children from toddler to teen. She regularly appears on the award-winning flagship ITV show This Morning, BBC Breakfast, and the Jeremy Vine Show on BBC Radio 2, and is the parenting expert for many UK BBC radio stations. Hi Sue, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Wonderful. Sue, today's discussion that we're going to be having is around do's and don'ts for divorcing parents. So let's begin with, when an adult relationship is breaking down and going through divorce, what are some of your top do's and don'ts with regards to children?
I think I do something called a one-page profile with the parents that I work with, which is a simple document that we sit down together and we help plan what it is that a child needs from you. They probably need, well, one simple thing to do is to draw a circle and put spokes in it, and put down at least 7 things that you can guarantee that will, that you can give to your children. Like they will still be at the same school, or they'll still go to football training on a Sunday, or they'll still see their grandma from time to time. Whatever it is, don't make false promises, but do give them some reassurances. And then from that, I take it to something called a one-page profile, which is where we look at what's important to the child. We look at the child's strengths and what other people think are their strengths. And then we ask questions around, how can we support you? And you ask the child, and you work together with the child for half an hour or an hour about going forward. How can I support you through this very challenging and often traumatic experience? So it's very important that the parent gets clear, gets confident, and doesn't take their own emotional baggage into this process. And I think one other key thing I do is I spend an hour working one-to-one with my clients on only how to tell your children you're divorcing. Because if you get that wrong and you start shouting in front of each other and dragging each other off and doing all those terrible things in front of the children, you can really damage how they handle this very life-changing experience. If you do it carefully, they won't be damaged so badly by it. And, change is something that we have to cope with throughout our lives. But certainly, this is quite an important moment. So if you get this moment right and try and present it with a united front, take out your own baggage and write down some of the key things you want to say to the children, and get your partner, if you can, to do the same key things and perhaps back you up about, some of the things that will happen. And of course, your children will not feel pulled and pushed and traumatized.
How can parents going through this hard time argue with emotional integrity?
Wow. This is very difficult because going through a divorce throws up enormous emotions. It throws up a sense of loss. It shows up a sense of anger if one or the other partners has been unfaithful. The only thing you can do is control yourself. You can't control what happens to the situation necessarily at this moment. You will feel like the world is spinning. You can't control your partner. You can't control whether your partner is going to go and live with his new lady friend or, vice versa. So the only person that you can look after is yourself. And I think you also have to learn to see it as a process. It's a kind of a 5 or 6, 7 times sort of stages. You go through anger, resentment, enormous fear. Then you may come to denial. And eventually, and it depends on you because it's not a broken arm, you will come to acceptance. And from acceptance is when it's a good place to start parent coaching, because then it's about how to move forward in whatever way you now want to create your life. Because actually, endings, no matter how painful they are, no matter how much you didn't want them, may well be fantastic opportunities. Perhaps you could start your own business. Perhaps you could learn to salsa dance. Perhaps you could now do something. Eat certain foods that you could never eat before. It's very interesting how change can be for the good.
What do you think children want to see, hear, or feel during this hard time?
They want to feel confident that you are there for them, that you love them unconditionally. So you may not love their dad or their mum anymore, but it's very, very, very important to teach them that you love them all the time and that their dad or their mum still loves them. It's not their fault, because so many children, I also work with children, so many children feel that they are to blame. If I was better, if I wasn't so naughty, if I went to bed on time, would daddy still be here? So it's very, very important that you give these reassurances. And this technique I teach now to families, called the one-page profile, is one of those simple, very simple techniques and things that actually helps the family nurture their child's self-esteem in the way that they want to be reassured. And don't make false promises, but also be the adult in the situation. Don't unload all your stuff on your child because they're not able to cope with that. So give them simple things. Keep to routine. One of the things that goes wrong is that often families, because of the circumstances and the mother and the father, you're all over the show emotionally, you don't keep to routine, and discipline can go. So keep to routine, keep to the same sort of traditions, instill your discipline still, because your children will thank you for it, because they'll feel safer, and go off, and chat to a friend and have a cry, or go and work with a parent coach to actually sort out your emotions properly. But don't do it in front of your kids. Let your kids see that you are strong, you are positive, and you are assertive, so they can relax and see that you are in control.
Sue, what are some of the most important messages that you can tell parents that are divorced on co-parenting effectively?
Again, this is difficult because, you see, if you bring in your emotions, which are, of course, incredibly raw, incredibly kind of heightened, then you are going to damage your children's sort of way of going through this process. If you put the children at the center of your negotiations when you're talking about when to see them, how often to see them, all these difficult issues that you'll be talking about, if you possibly can, I would suggest don't do it in the home. Go to a restaurant or a place where it's in public sometimes, of course quiet, because then you won't suddenly lose your temper or scream or shout or throw things out, when you're in an emotional state. And that's why I also think the people I work with, I get them into a very clear, positive mindset before they start. They have already rehearsed what they want to say, how they want to say it, things they want to happen. And you also have to realize that you have to negotiate now. And if you always put the children in the center of your intention to make it less painful for them, so they won't be hurt and damaged, then I think it really shifts both of your mindset. You can try and park up some of your differences. And interestingly enough, perhaps couples who are separated didn't communicate very well in the first place. So it's actually quite a challenge to suddenly start communicating now when you're actually in an emotional state. But if you can manage to do that, then I think you will come through this process with dignity, with respect, and knowing that you have done your best.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you so much for talking to me today.
Pleasure.